So it seems that anti-fans have found themselves a new scapegoat to blame for the destruction of Hollywood and media as we know it. Uber feminist activist, destroyer of worlds, Phoebe Waller-Bridge. Now Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny has come out, and it's safe to say there's a little bit of controversy here. The movie has received lukewarm reviews from critics and reactions from viewers, and while some people either love it or hate it, most people fall somewhere in between, saying it's a fine movie, but ultimately a bit unnecessary. Now you can think what you want of this movie, I truly do not care whether you love it or hate it, that's not what this video is about. I'm more interested in the discourse surrounding it, and the implications that come from this discourse. I think you've all heard that this movie isn't doing too great at the box office, at least not compared to what I think they were hoping it would, especially considering it's an incredibly expensive movie, one of the most expensive movies of all time. So while the movie still has made a lot of money, it wasn't the massive success that it was made to be. It seems there just wasn't that much excitement surrounding a fifth Indiana Jones movie. It just wasn't a movie in the same lane as really high-grossing movies, but ultimately it's still making decent money. It's probably still too early to say for sure if it'll break even, but you can call it a flop if you want. However, it's definitely not something that Disney won't recover from. Remember people, now that they have Disney Plus, they aren't solely relying on the box office anymore. However, there are plenty of reasons for why this movie wasn't the major success they thought it would be. The main reason probably being that Lucasfilm thought Indiana Jones had way more pulling power than what it did, and therefore dumped loads of money into it, and thus the decent box office now looks horrendous because of it. However, some people naturally blamed woke Hollywood for this movie's failure, because that's apparently always the reason for why a movie flops. Just take the Mario movie for example. That movie was not woke in any way, and that's why it's the highest grossing movie of the year. It definitely wasn't woke. No one said that before it came out, and then switched up their narrative when they were proven wrong, to then pretend like the movie was the woke killer all along. I mean, I hope most people know by now that people shouting woke at everything, whenever there's a woman in a prominent role in a movie, or people of color, or a kiss between two people of the same gender, that these people don't add anything of worth to the discussion. I talk about this anti-woke sentiment a lot on my channel, and sometimes it honestly gets a bit tiring. However, someone needs to point out the flaws in these dumb but surprisingly popular ideas and arguments that get spewed by channels like these. And one thing I always think is important to keep in mind are patterns. See, a single channel calling Indiana Jones 5 woke is dumb, sure, but it doesn't really mean anything. But this is not just one channel, it's a lot of channels saying the same things. Dial of Destiny seems to become one of the present images of woke Hollywood and everything that's wrong with it. We've seen recent examples similar to this, such as Rings of Power, She-Hulk, Willow, and now Dial of Destiny has taken the spotlight. I swear, for a group of people who supposedly hate this movie and don't want more movies like it, they sure are giving it a lot of attention and engagement. If we end up getting Indiana Jones 6, then blame it on them. They're gonna Morbius this shit. However, it's not just Indiana Jones 5 that's highlighted in this content, it's also one of the stars of the movie, Phoebe Waller-Bridge. The woman. Now, Phoebe Waller-Bridge seems to be the newest scapegoat used to call out the woke feminist agenda that supposedly permeates through all of modern Hollywood. However, she definitely isn't the first or the last. This happens a lot. Just take Brie Larson, Morfydd Clark, Kathleen Kennedy, Amber Heard, and Daisy Ridley as examples. A core aspect of the anti-woke sentiment seems to be the notion that Hollywood has an anti-male agenda, and that the strong female character is an insidious attempt to destroy movies as we know. And Phoebe Waller-Bridge is simply a recent example of someone they can put the blame on, because naturally a talented and capable writer and actor who happens to be a woman is a threat to these people. However, instead of slushing through the sludge that is a channel like RK Outpost or Geeks and Gamers, I thought I'd check out this video by Baggage Claim, because it intrigued me. Now, I haven't watched enough of her content to tell if she's a misogynist like the rest of the channels she associates with, which by the way is perfectly possible for a woman to be, but I don't know. What I do know is that a lot of her videos focus on toxic women, calling them out, and it's pretty obvious to tell that it's profitable to be a woman calling these things out, to be a pick-me girl to the anti-woke crowd. Because don't be fooled, she absolutely interacts with channels like Geeks and Gamers, Nerdrotic, The Critical Drinker, The Quartering, and all the others quite often. She's an anti-woke channel, it's pretty clear to see, and being a woman calling out woke Hollywood and toxic feminists is a pretty viable strategy, as you can see. So yeah, it's not certain if she herself is biased towards women, but that's also irrelevant because her content caters towards people who do have these biases. And so I'm interested in what she has to say about Phoebe Waller-Bridge in her video titled "Why is Phoebe Waller-Bridge in Everything?" And before I even show you any clips from this video, can we just appreciate how fucking ridiculous this title is? How is someone now being questioned for working and doing their job? Also, she isn't even in that much. Since 2017, other than smaller roles and productions, she starred in Solo and Dial of Destiny, and she created Fleabag and Killing Eve, which were pretty well received. She helped with No Time to Die, and she's working on a Tomb Raider series. There are plenty of actors and creators who are way more active than her. But yes, she's still doing a lot, and good for her. She's an actor and a filmmaker, and she's acting in movies and making TV shows. I don't see what the problem is here. If you don't want to see a movie or TV show by or starring Phoebe Waller-Bridge, then it's pretty fucking easy to not watch them. So even if Phoebe Waller-Bridge is in a lot of projects, it's still her job, so I really don't understand the idea of criticizing that or questioning it. I'm not going to a restaurant 4 times a week and asking the head chef why they're in the restaurant all the time, because it's their fucking job. This is such a weird premise for a video, but let's just see what Baggage Claim has to say about Phoebe Waller-Bridge.
Phoebe Waller-Bridge is quickly coming to be known as the great destroyer of franchises. From her involvement in Solo to steering the script for No Time to Die to her now unfortunate role in Indiana Jones, people see Phoebe's participation as a death sentence for their favorite characters. And as if that weren't enough, we are now being threatened with a similar fate for Lara Croft. And all of this begs the crucial question: why the hell is Phoebe Waller-Bridge in everything?
I think the premise of this video is what really confuses me. I mean, it's fine to try and analyze why someone is being cast in roles and being added to writing teams if that's what you want to do. I just think the framing destroyer of franchises is a bit disingenuous because she's not even in control of these properties. Even if you believe that her characters are the worst parts of Solo or Dial of Destiny, which is fine, she didn't write those parts. She didn't direct the movies. I love how no blame is being put on Ron Howard or James Mangold, the people in charge of these movies. I guess it's safer for them and more profitable to blame it on a woman, be it Kathleen Kennedy or Phoebe Waller-Bridge. Also, yeah, she did the final write-up of No Time to Die, so I guess if you believe that movie has a feminist agenda and wanted to kill off the beloved hero to instead shine light on the strong woman, then go ahead, but no one ever mentions how Daniel Craig had wanted out of the series for a while. His character dying off isn't some Phoebe Waller-Bridge master plan, and he's spoken out against the misogyny of the character of James Bond before. In an interview with the Red Bulletin back in 2015, he says let's not forget that he's actually a misogynist. And when asked, Bond has actually become a bit more chivalrous in the most recent films, hasn't he? Daniel Craig responded, "That's because we've surrounded him with very strong women who have no problem putting him in his place." Even if you disagree with his reading of the character, you can't deny that if these quotes had been from Phoebe Waller-Bridge, then all these channels would have been up in arms about it, saying how she's ruining a beloved franchise with her feminist agenda. It's just a lot of double standards coming from Baggage Claim, calling out Phoebe Waller-Bridge as the sole destroyer of these beloved franchises without mentioning the men who had bigger parts to play, because naturally she makes for a pretty good scapegoat. So far, the intro to this video has done a horrendous job at presenting a valid argument.
I mean, she isn't particularly appealing or charismatic, yet she's being tapped to steer massive IPs. The clear culprit of all of this is Fleabag, which took Phoebe, the writer and star of the show, from obscurity and plopped her into all the right meetings for future projects. Now, I loved Fleabag. It's a fantastic show, and I go back every now and then to rewatch it because it's beautifully written with so much nuance and fantastic timing, great characters, and a perfect ending. And Phoebe accomplished all of that in 12 episodes.
I love how she asked the difficult question of why is she being cast in these massive franchises she's not charismatic or appealing. But then she goes on to mention Fleabag and talks about how much she loves that show. Yes, it's very well written and well received critically, so is Killing Eve. It makes sense for a talented writer and actor to be asked to join other projects. But I guess we get to her argument next, where she states that Fleabag wasn't written for men.
But I also recognize that this show is not for everyone, and by that I mean men. Now, I know we're not allowed to make gender-based generalizations anymore, but I can understand why most men, not all, would not enjoy the show, just like I understand why most women, not all, would not enjoy a movie like John Wick. Short aside, I went to watch John Wick 4 after listening to the Critical Drinker rave about it, and I walked out after the first hour when I genuinely started to worry about the families of the several henchmen John Wick was killing to really upbeat music. Pretty cool, not for me.
So this argument is ultimately insinuating that Phoebe Waller-Bridge is talented at creating and starring in shows that are for women, and that most men won't like her style of writing, and so why is she being cast in these popular franchises that aren't made for women but instead for men? How can men possibly enjoy James Bond anymore when their beloved hero has been Fleabagged? I mean, I must say, Baggage Claim does a pretty solid analysis of Fleabag and what makes that show so real and powerful. I have nothing wrong with this section. I agree that this show is very personal to Phoebe Waller-Bridge, and it's written from a woman's perspective, but is not meant to be watched solely by women. I think most men can get a lot out of watching this show. Naturally, it's not for everyone, but that's the case for all movies and TV shows. I'm mentioning this because Baggage Claim is about to get into the mainstream Hollywood section, and this next section is wholly disappointing after that well-written part about Fleabag. She basically dissolves into the message.
But let's switch gears a bit to Hollywood and the massive identity crisis that they've undergone over the last decade, where strong female hero has become the war cry of every writer's room and talking point of every executive. Hollywood is living under the shadow of constant fear that they will be accused of sexism, racism, or bigotry, and rushing to prove that they're as modern and forward-thinking as they come, ready to pander to every identity group. The woke virtue signaling is like the ultimate drug, and the folks in charge are constantly looking out for the next feminist they can put in the driving seat and demand applause from the torch-wielding mob. And it's these strange times that have brought us the rise of Phoebe Waller-Bridge, who fits the bill, being a self-avowed modern female feminist with some success at running projects under her belt.
Yes, the rise of Phoebe Waller-Bridge makes it sound so ominous. I love how Baggage Claim now downplays her achievements, even though again it makes complete sense that a talented and well-received writer and actor will get hired for big roles. I mean, you've just spent a while showing how Phoebe Waller-Bridge knows how to write human stories that aren't just cheap woke pandering as you call it, but rather she's proved that she can write a feminist story with nuance. Yet there's something wrong with her now being prominent within Hollywood. Well, so we could talk for hours about the strong female character stuff. I know Baggage Claim likes to talk about it, but that's a story for another time. Today I really want to focus in on the sections that are focused on Phoebe Waller-Bridge.
The only problem, all the elements of storytelling and character nuance that made Phoebe a great writer are now considered unacceptable by Hollywood. Should we talk about female narcissism? Oh god, no. There's no such thing. No, female characters have to be shown as perfect and error-proof. Only men can be narcissistic and toxic, don't you know? What about female jealousy? Can we address how women can get competitive with each other? Oh hell no, we can't show that.
She-Hulk is a pretty good example of a recent show that people call out for being woke and feminist. But a big aspect of Jennifer's arc in that show is her narcissism. So many people focused in on her rant in the first episode but then didn't correct themselves when the show calls her out later for being hypocritical. She wasn't being fair to Bruce and it blew up in her face. I guess it's something that's easy to miss if you're solely looking for things to get mad about. We're even shown multiple female characters being competitive with each other and being jealous, but no, it's so much nicer to just ignore the negative portrayals of women in that show and the positive portrayals of men, and instead hyper-focus in on the positive portrayals of women and the negative portrayals of men. I also just still can't wrap my head around why Phoebe Waller-Bridge is the focus of this video. It seems like Baggage Claim has a problem with how the female character is portrayed in these projects that aren't even written by her. James Mangold and his writing team wrote this. James Mangold, who has written and directed amazing movies. Why are you not blaming him for this Helena character that you think is so toxic? And when it comes to No Time to Die, yes, she did the final shape up of the script, helping with dialogue and other stuff. However, the general structure of the movie and the nature of the characters was already established. I guess it's easier to blame her for the faults of a movie that was honestly pretty well received. Phoebe Waller-Bridge has even been outspoken about not wanting a female Bond, saying she'd rather have a unique female character to rival him. But still, I guess she's the destroyer of beloved franchises.
The saddest part about all this is that these characters are supposedly written for my benefit, to pander to women like me, to inspire us and to elevate us beyond patriarchal limitations. But all I found myself doing was loathing this woman, because forget about wanting to be her, I wouldn't even want to know her. She's a woman completely stripped of any reality, any truth. She's motivated purely by money and sex, and she's not shown as flawed, and she has no growth. And she's a far cry from Fleabag, who in all her dysfunction pulls you in to feel with her, to be flawed with her, to be human with her.
I think you did this to yourself by going into Indiana Jones 5 expecting a deep character study of one of the many characters in that movie, something similar to Fleabag. I mean, when I watched John Wick 4, I was repulsed by how the man was just a grisly man in touch with his emotions compared to Walter White, who's written with such depth and nuance, a man who's emotional yet resourceful.
I am not in danger, Skylar. I am the danger.
The character study in John Wick 4 wasn't at the level of Breaking Bad. My point is that this is a dumb comparison. Yes, the men in this movie don't show me the nuanced and deep crevices of what it means to be a man either. It's just a silly action movie to lose a couple of hours to. The character of Helena isn't supposed to be some deep exploration of what it means to be a woman. She's just a character in an action movie, who you're free to dislike, don't get me wrong, but this comparison is disingenuous. And especially so considering this video is about Phoebe Waller-Bridge rather than the character. She didn't write this character, a room full of men did. If you want deep and nuanced storytelling, then being mad that Indiana Jones 5 doesn't have it is kind of your own fault.
Well, Helena doesn't even have a drop of humanity in her. She doesn't care who she hurts, who she steals from, or dies in their efforts to help her. She has no higher vision, no great purpose, no greater good she's working towards. And all of this is what Hollywood thinks women are. Or better yet, what we should endeavor to be. Infallible, arrogant, selfish, and soulless.
No, she's just a flawed character. This is not Hollywood telling you that this is how all women should act. This is how Helena acts. A person who doesn't mind letting other people take the fall for her if it'll help her reach her own goals. I swear these channels so often complain about women being perfect and flawless in Hollywood movies, but then when there's a woman who's a bad person, then that's an issue too. Whichever way the grift unravels, I guess. I think the real crime here is thinking that she'd find a truly nuanced character in Indiana Jones 5. So yeah, this video is pretty dumb. Not because she didn't like Indiana Jones 5 or the character of Helena, or even that she despises wokeness or strong female characters, but rather because the focus is Phoebe Waller-Bridge and she completely fails to formulate any compelling argument against her. It's just these vague questions about why she's starring in movies insinuating some insidious agenda within Hollywood, where toxic feminist ideology is taking over beloved franchises, which sure, if you want to live in delusion, be my guest. The point of my video was to show how Phoebe Waller-Bridge is the new target for anti-woke sentiments here on YouTube. The people who hate wokeness and women being capable in mainstream movies now have someone new to blame it on. Phoebe Waller-Bridge. And of course, there's no foundation for their arguments whatsoever. Anyways, that's all I have for today. Thank you all so much for watching. Leave a like and comment, it really helps me out. Thank you all so much for 10,000 subscribers. It really has been an unforgettable journey. I wanted to do more to celebrate, but at the time of this video coming out, I've already left for a pretty long trip. So sadly, I won't be able to do much to celebrate with you guys before I come back. However, I've been working hard on a lot of videos that will come out in the next 6 weeks, so look out for those. I appreciate you all so much. I hope you have a great day. Thank you all so much for watching, and peace out.